Hi, everyone. I'm excited to talk to you today about Youth Challenge International, the organization, and our HerStart program. Specifically, we're going to tell you a bit more about the International Fellowship Program that we run and how you could get involved if it sounds of interest to you. So before we dive into talking about the opportunities with us, we just wanted to give introductions of who you'll be hearing from. So my name is Taylor Marlowe. I'm the International Programs Manager at YCI. A little bit about my background. So I did my BA in psychology and my MA in sociology, actually at Wilfrid Laurier University. And after that, I found out about global studies and global development kind of during my degree. So I started working in that field afterwards, realizing that it really combined multiple passions that I had, which, include gender equality, youth engagement, travel, getting to work with and learn from other cultures and countries. So after that, I really started my career in sustainable development. I worked with the organization's Operation Groundswell, which does sustainable, ethical travel tourism in countries around the world. I worked with which was Free the Children at the time, almost 10 years ago, doing monitoring and evaluation for them. And then I actually did a similar, in ways, fellowship program with the Aga Khan Development Network. And I was placed in Tajikistan in Central Asia. And I worked with them on a project that was focused on natural disaster risk reduction because it's an extremely mountainous country that experiences a lot of climate change. So after all of those experiences and working in, several different countries around the world, I came back to Canada and really wanted to work in a field that combined those interests in gender equality, youth empowerment, international development. And I was very lucky to find Youth Challenge International at that time. So I started there 4 years ago. I was a program coordinator to begin with, working on both our domestic projects in Canada and our international projects overseas. And over time, I was the program and partnerships lead. And then most recently, for the last 2 years, I've been the international programs manager. And what that means now is that I'm overseeing the fellowship component of HerStart, which we're going to tell you all about today. I'll pass it to Laura, my colleague, to introduce herself as well.
Yeah, so very nice to meet everyone who's watching this recording. My name is Laura. I am the Program Engagement Coordinator at Youth Challenge International. I actually did a lot of stuff with York International as an alumni from York. So I did my undergrad in global politics and gender and women's studies, and then I did my master's in international development at York as well. So definitely rooting for your involvement at York International. Highly recommend. I did definitely do opportunities with them and through their support as well at York. From then, similar to Taylor, I was really excited about continuing to do international development work. And then COVID hit, so that was a bit of a bump in the road. But that was my introduction to Youth Challenge International. So I did do the HerStart program myself as an e-fellow at the time. So being an alumni of Youth Challenge International has been really great, and working with Youth Challenge International has been a great opportunity to continue pursuing things that I was really passionate about, whether it's youth empowerment and education, but also women's empowerment, gender equality, and continuing to learn from global perspectives is definitely something that I'm passionate about. So in a very brief summary, that was my path towards working internationally with Youth Challenge International. And I'm really excited to tell you more about the program and ways that you can also be involved.
Thanks, Laura. So before we get into our program again, we did recognize that it might be helpful to hear some career tips or general advice that we would have when you're at this stage of your career, maybe, in this program to pivot to something else or just starting off your career after you graduate. So after reviewing, thousands of CVs, resumes, applications, and hiring and mentoring over 1,000 young people over the last few years in different programs, we put together a list of some of our top advice. So the first type of advice we wanted to give was to take risks. experiment and get out of your comfort zone. So just recognizing how important it is, especially in the field of international development or nonprofit management, if you're interested in social impact work at all, there's so many different ways that you can go. It's not a linear career journey that you're going to hit these certain milestones and progress on. It really is going to be about getting out of your comfort zone, trying new things, maybe working in different contexts, whether that's in Canada or abroad, and really just trying to experiment and get to know yourself and what you could do in this sector.
And another point is the transferable skills and personal growth that you gain in another country are unparalleled. You'll definitely be able to complement what you've been learning in the classroom in a real world setting. So again, like doing a lot of relearning and unlearning of what it means to work internationally, and learning more about things that you're passionate about, things that will inspire your personal growth. And like Taylor mentioned, it's not a linear path. So definitely looking into other opportunities, venues, expanding your networks in that sense, and looking at what skills you can transfer outside of the classroom in a different world context. So definitely gaining new perspectives on that process will be an unparalleled experience, to say the least.
And next up, building off that, is something I've definitely learned personally, and hear a lot of people learn in our program, is that it's so important to learn what you like to do, of course, but equally what you do not like to do. So that's part of that experimentation, really trying out different opportunities, organizations, roles, so that you can figure out what really resonates with you and what doesn't. Because getting up every day to work on a job, you're going to want to know what motivates you and what keeps you going and what you enjoy learning about. So I think an example of that for me was that I did monitoring and evaluation at WE, like I mentioned, or Free the Children. And I thought that was going to be my career path. I was like, I have all this research experience before that. I'm so passionate about it. It's going to be a great fit. It's an in-demand job. And I did it for a year. And to be honest, I kind of hated it. I was always trying to get out of my desk, to be interacting with more people, to be facilitating, engaging. So I learned from that I like parts of it and I could integrate that into a role like a project manager, but I didn't want to do it full time. So again, experimenting to learn what you like to do and what you don't like to do.
Yeah, and then the next point is, if feasible, you can take volunteering opportunities, internships, fellowships, and give them equal weight in your CV. They are experiences that you're learning new skills, you're growing professionally, you're gaining new knowledge and meeting different people. So don't take those opportunities as less than. Definitely highlight what you've been learning, highlight the skills, the tasks that you were working on, the connections you made, the impact that you were a part of. Definitely highlight those opportunities. And yeah, I feel like they expand on ways that you, again, can learn what you like and what you don't like to do. Meet people who are passionate about things that you're also passionate about, learn what their pathways have been and what opportunities they've encountered that they can also share with you. So yeah, so definitely try to leverage those opportunities as much as you can, and where feasible, of course, but they're definitely great opportunities into next steps of your journey and into meeting new people and new organizations that maybe you hadn't heard of that other people have a leverage in. So yeah, so definitely give them equal weight, look for those opportunities where possible, and take on those new and exciting adventures in the process.
Love that. So important. Next up, don't stress about short-term opportunities or gaps on your CV. It truly is all about how it all adds up. So I hear a lot from people who are in different, transitions in their career or leaving school and looking for opportunities, that they're really worried about having short-term opportunities on their resume, or, taking time to figure out what they want to do next and not having a current job or position. And I just really want to emphasize that for, especially for the right employers that you're going to want to work for and work well with, they're going to value that you've taken that time, that you've explored, that you've worked in different contexts, especially if it's short term because you're in a whole new country. That's almost always going to look like a strength, not a negative. I think it's something that you do as a young person quite frequently now. It's changed over the last few generations a lot, is that you experiment, you try different things, you do have short-term, maybe volunteer, intern, or paid opportunities to really, again, gain that experience over time. It adds up and it shows your diversity, your ability to work across sectors, across countries. So just really wanted to say that I personally think, and I know everyone at YCI really values when you take that time and you show that you're flexible and have worked in different environments. So it can be a strength, not always a negative, like some people worry that it might be.
Yeah, and then the next point is save your dream job ads. So find opportunities that will help you develop in these areas they list. So you may have an idea of what an ideal job or organization that you want to work for is currently. But yeah, take out some time to look into what postings they're looking for, some of the skills, some of the ways that while you're at your work, you can still continue gaining some of these perspectives, these new skills in the process, whether it's through a course, whether it's through a club, whether it's through volunteering, doing a fellowship, or doing an internship abroad. That's also a way that you can expand on those skills that are of interest to the organizations or the places that you're looking to hopefully work for in the future. So keep that in mind. Take note of those things that you want to continue developing and getting better at. They're definitely helpful. And also ideas to kind of build onto your CV as you develop those skills are definitely great things to look back onto. And also a nice check off list. As long as you are continuing to build out those skills, then yeah, celebrate those accomplishments for yourself too. So yeah, take note of those and keep building those out in the process.
Love that. And our last tip that we wanted to give was just really being mindful of putting your full effort into any applications that you complete and any interview process that you go through. So sometimes we're reviewing applications for the fellowship or other programs at YCI, and it's clear that someone's just quickly thrown together their answers or their application. And to be honest, just doing that is not even worth that amount of effort or time that you've taken to quickly put something together. So I'd say only submit applications to things if you feel like you have the full time and ability to submit. Otherwise, 9 times out of 10, it will be kind of wasted energy and effort and not give the best impression to the hiring teams that you're applying to. When we see applications that have been clearly, really thoughtfully written and drafted in advance, and then they've probably copied it over to their application, you can tell, and it really does stand out, and it's worth that time and effort. A little tip is sending thank you notes as well. That is really rare, it seems nowadays, for people to follow up from an interview and say, thank you for taking that time. In that email, you can reiterate, what really interested you from the conversation, why you think you'd be a good fit for the role, how you're really looking forward to hearing back. And that honestly makes people really stand out. So that's hopefully one tangible thing you can take from this, is that send those thank you notes and really put that full effort into your application if you're going to apply to something. All right. We're going to dive into what we're really here for now, which is talking about YCI and the HerStart program and how you might be interested in getting involved with us.
So who are we? So Youth Challenge International is a nonprofit. We've been around for 35 years, catalyzing youth and equality in the focus of our programs. So we're a leading global development organization that is promoting youth innovation to drive positive change. So we work towards creating solutions that ultimately catapult youth and young people around the world to succeed and to thrive. So for the last 35 years, we have focused on gender equality as a priority. And in the process, we've partnered with young women to design inclusive programs that help overcome gender barriers, supporting their economic empowerment and building community leadership.
Giving you a glance at our model for HerStart specifically, because Youth Challenge International does have multiple programs and approaches that we utilize. So for HerStart, it really is an initiative that's been focused around learning about and programming according to women and their community's needs. So within that approach, we use a human-centered design model. So that informs all of the programs that we run with women and women entrepreneurs in each country, but also how YCI operates as an organization. So if you haven't learned about human-centered design before, I definitely recommend you check it out. It really resonates with a lot of people. But essentially, it's the idea that you're doing research fully into the end users of your service or product or program. So you're really taking the time to understand in our case, the women in the communities that we're working with, and that you're iterating as you go, that you're updating that research, you're having those participatory conversations so that you really are truly designing for the people that are going to be the end users of your product or program. So in our case, that approach really dictates how we go through these 3 layers of HerStart. So the core of HerStart really being focusing on building those supportive ecosystems to advance gender equality. So understanding that at the core to really, break down barriers to women's empowerment and to get to the root of gender inequality, that we really have to look at the ecosystem, the people in their lives, in their communities, the organizations that are going to, exist way longer than this project. How are we targeting those and collaborating with those effectively to build that core of support? And then as we move out, the second layer is really, of course, how do we learn from that and how do we pull from that to drive innovation and program implementation? So how are we taking those learnings, that understanding, those connections in communities and with people to really drive our programming? And like I said, to iterate it, to change it as we find out more or as contexts change, things like global pandemics will happen and how are we going to adapt to them and learn how to meet the needs of people as they change and grow. And the last layer is really looking for that longer term impact and change. How can we scale sustainable social and economic impact? How can we take all of those learnings and have that long-term sustainable piece in mind as we operate in each country that we work in? So that's a snapshot at how we approach the work that we do. We also are shaped by a lot of the global and national frameworks, which we're very lucky YCI does align with and naturally has evolved in the same direction as the Canadian Feminist International Assistance Policy as being a big one. So FIAP for short. Maybe you've heard about this in your classes or not, but it really is a framework that Canada's government has created to really align where the funding in international assistance is going. So 95%, at least 95% of Canada's international assistance money is going towards projects that focus on empowering women and girls. So really, this quote demonstrates how they've adopted this feminist approach because they really believe in the importance of focusing on women and girls to achieve sustainable development goals. So that's where it ties in together with the SDGs. It's really seeing that 5th SDG of gender equality as being such a critical piece of all the rest of them. So YCI has designed HerStart to align with that approach as well.
So in a snapshot, what does HerStart entail? So the focus of the program is to involve over 10,000 women, over 300 Canadian volunteers, over 9 partners in the lifespan of the project, for 7 years across 3 countries. So the initiative comes to life through thoughtfully designed programs that are propelling inclusive economic growth for women and their communities in line with FIAP and the SDGs, as Taylor mentioned. And so our program launched in 2020. So we're collaborating with local partner organizations and Canadian volunteers to provide over 10,000 young women in Ghana, Tanzania, and in Uganda access to training, to networking, funding, and to create their social enterprises with a positive impact for all. And so as volunteers, you'll be joining us in working directly with our partners, the women entrepreneurs in the 3 countries that we are listed.
So to give you a glance into our program approach and principles more specifically, as we mentioned, it is framed by a gender transformative, but also economic inclusive and climate resilient approach. So those are kind of our 3 main pillars of HerStart, being gender transformative, economically inclusive, and climate resilient. And those factors inform all of the decisions and work that we do. We are also driven by young women and their potential. So really having that positive oriented outlook on how can we harness the knowledge, skills, and experience of women in these countries and really support them or, help them to scale and launch social businesses to increase their own livelihood, but also the impact it can have on their community. Through the fellowship program, we leverage the power of volunteerism. So we have international fellows, but also national fellows in each country. So there's volunteers from each country and coming from Canada to collaborate together to work on the HerStart program. Through our partnerships and larger ecosystem work that we touched on, we're really looking to harness collective growth. So how can we work together effectively to scale that impact even further and longer term? And how do we make that sustainable? So how do we make that impact long-term, sustainable, ethical? How are we taking the learnings that we've gained to inform that design and impact? And throughout all of that, how do we maintain an innovative mindset? So how do we learn from challenges? How do we, fail smartly? How do we move forward in creative ways when we see barriers or challenges or issues emerge in the countries we work in the women's lives that we're supporting, in our own team structure, always trying to be as innovative and creative as possible. We're going to show you a quick video. We talked a lot, and we want you to be able to hopefully try to picture a little more what it means to be an entrepreneur in the HerStart program. So this video is going to highlight Judith, who's an entrepreneur that fellows are working with and supporting in Tanzania. I met her recently when I was there, and she's really incredible, and the work she's doing is fantastic. So I hope you enjoy seeing her story.
Hi, my name is Judith Maduhu. I joined the HerStart program in Zanzibar, Tanzania in 2022. I joined the HerStart program because I wanted to do something that will give back to my community. There was a problem of poor solid waste management, and I wanted to do something about it. So using my knowledge from the university, because I pursued environmental science and management, to do something and turn waste into wealth. My business idea is recycling. I recycle solid waste, particularly waste papers, in combination with fibered organic waste. From that, I make handmade papers. I turn them into different paper crafts, which are very unique with a very beautiful texture. And one of the environmental impacts that business idea has is that instead of the solid waste going to the landfill, I use them to recycle and make different products. One of the things I learned from the HerStart program is incorporating the different revenue models in my business. Models is direct selling, whereby I sell direct to the customers, and another one is through cross-subsidy, whereby I have two different prices for different customers. In order to grow and expand my business, I will need some equipment like the calendaring machine, which will help me in smoothing the paper, and also I will need space because at the moment I just do the production at home. The Catalyst Fund, I was able to buy more equipment, for instance the heavy duty blender. This helped me in making the pulp very quickly, make more frames which help in the production process.
Hopefully that was inspiring to see a little bit about Judith. And yeah, she's one of the 10,000 women that we're going to be working with and collaborating with in HerStart.
So how can you get involved? So that's where the fellowship component comes in. So we are offering the opportunity to join the program for 3 months, so you can engage meaningfully in international placements that will allow you to expand your knowledge and make an impact on gender equality, climate action, and sustainable development.
So to give you a little more specific information about the application and the roles that we're recruiting for, we wanted to highlight that, yes, it is 3 months. We previously had 6-month placements, but moving forward, there will only be 3-month placements available. And you must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. That's because we're funded by the government of Canada. So currently that restriction is in place, but you can have a placement in any of our 3 countries. So you indicate that on your application, and then we go through the interview process to see where your skills and interests might be the best fit. But yeah, we are located in 2 locations in Ghana, 1 in Tanzania, and 2 in Uganda as well currently. The application process, so what you would go through to become a fellow, is that you would submit a simple application, which we tried to make a little more engaging. So you don't have to do a cover letter, but you do submit a resume or CV, a creative sample of your work. So that could be a writing sample, social media sample, a report you've created, something like that. And then you answer a few long answer questions. And then after that, if you move forward, you would do 2 rounds of interviews. So one with Laura, one with myself, and finally 2 references that you would submit. So yeah, we shortlist people along the way. It is a competitive process, but we've had lots of great applicants from this university, so we'd love to see more. Our recruitment timeline, so each cohort, so each group of individuals starts together in a cohort. Those begin in January, in May, and September. The applications close about 2 to 3 months before each cohort starts. So we do need, time to help each fellow get onboarded, to, know what they need to do in advance of departure. So we do want to leave that time. So do submit your application early if you're interested, so that we can consider you for that upcoming cohort. We are always recruiting for 7 roles. So on your application, you get to indicate what are your top interests, or where do you think your skills would be best aligned. And again, we'll explore that further in the interview process. But the main areas are really around a few different thematic areas and then technical areas that the program always needs support within. So that's gender equality, climate action, or social entrepreneurship for the more thematic focuses. And then for more technical focuses, we have program and partnerships, monitoring, evaluation, and learning, and communications roles. You can also indicate a general application. So if you're really unsure what would be the best fit, or you feel really open to a lot of the positions and think you could be a good fit for multiple, you can also put general application, and we can help figure that out, where you might be most aligned.
Well, then when completing your application, just keep in mind some qualities and skills that we look for. So these will include, they're not the only ones, but just some that we recommend and definitely look out for in the program. So being flexible and adaptable, I think, goes a long way, especially when you're working in international settings. Maybe routines and your day-to-days will vary. So kind of being flexible and open and adaptable to that is important. Similar to that is being open-minded and willing to learn. So like we mentioned, at least in my own experience in working internationally, it's a lot of like unlearning and relearning how to do certain things. And I think that's a big part of working abroad as well, working with people from a different country context as well, working with other volunteers who come from different professional, personal backgrounds. So you're going to learn to do things in a different way, and being open-minded to that and curious in that process will be important. So definitely willing to learn will definitely be important for you as a fellow abroad. Taking initiative and problem solving creatively. So yes, definitely there's a lot of problems. So we definitely want to create solutions where possible that are meaningful and that are relevant to the communities that we're working in and with. So definitely taking initiative and supporting and knowing when to step aside and when to give the space to somebody else will be important as well. So yeah, so taking that initiative and being open to offering solutions as much as possible. Technical skills and knowledge for each role, of course, will be important. So if you do have some experience within that, whether it's through a job or through volunteering, definitely highlight those opportunities in your application. We'd love to know more about that experience for you. Being passionate and driven to generate impact, we definitely encourage that as much as possible. Of course, we want impact to be a main focus of the program for fellows, but also learning what they want to expect and what they want to take away from the experience themselves too. So being driven and passionate will be important, just for the way that your fellowship will also go, but just for your own personal and professional learning and growth in that process is definitely key to have. And then last is previous travel being an asset, but it is not required. So whether it's your first time going abroad, that's okay. We've had a lot of fellows who have joined the program as their first time going abroad. And yeah, it's a great experience nonetheless. Definitely learning and being open-minded and adaptable will be key in that sense. But yeah, if you've had a previous travel experience, then do let us know. Let us know what that experience was like for you. In the long answer formats, you do get a chance to expand on some of those opportunities for yourself. So do take some time to meaningfully also engage and respond when you are completing that application form.
Amazing. And then we wanted to highlight, of course, what we see as the main benefits or perks of doing a HerStart fellowship. So the first is, of course, making a tangible impact on these areas that we focus on. So being able to see the impact that you're able to make, big or small, it's usually a combination of both, on women's economic empowerment, gender equality, and climate action. Of course, it's a huge advantage to gain that professional international experience of being able to put that on your CV and LinkedIn and be able to speak to it and learn from it. How can you showcase that you're able to work across cultures, across countries, with different nonprofits? We work with all of a series of local partner organizations as well. So you're really gaining experience with multiple NGOs across the world. You're joining a like-minded international network. So we always hear fellows say that's a huge highlight for them, is getting to know their peers, getting to know the rest of their cohort and the staff teams in country who are passionate about similar issues to them. Sometimes it's hard to find people who are really motivated and excited about those things, and this is a great place to meet them. You will get to collaborate with really amazing social entrepreneurs like Judith that you saw in the video, and leading global organizations. So YCI is being the main organization that you're supporting, but joining that network of organizations in all 3 countries that we work with. And lastly, you do receive a comprehensive benefits package if you're a fellow. So that includes a monthly living stipend that covers all of your basic living costs. It includes comprehensive health insurance, visas, vaccinations, and your travel costs. So international return flights to go to and from the placement. So all of the costs are covered to participate through our funding from the Government of Canada, which is amazing. But really, yeah, once you're there, you're able to gain from all of these experiences and partnerships and the like-minded peers that you're meeting. So before we wrap up, we want to show you one more video. It is a fellow that recently completed our program in Uganda. So I'll let John speak to what he gained from the program.
Hi, my name is John, and I'm an International Gender Equality Fellow here in Uganda. I joined the HerStart program because ultimately I believe in women's empowerment. By supporting women's ideas and ensuring they have the tools that they need to support their families and their communities, I feel we support everyone. During my time in Uganda, I've been working to build on HerStart's ecosystem of partners. I've been looking at finding supplementary training, funding, and other resources for participants in the HerStart program. Living in Uganda, I have been able to enjoy the local food, learn to practice Luganda through weekly language training, and fully immerse myself in Ugandan culture. In my experience, I've enjoyed the non-transactional nature of conversations here. The idea that if you need something, it's really common to ask, how are you doing? How's your family? Before asking for directions or anything else, which has honestly made it much easier to meet people and make friends. During the fellowship program, I've learned to listen. Listening to local staff who have so much knowledge to share, listening to the needs of participants, listening to yourself to see what support you need to adapt to a new environment and support your own personal growth. I won't forget working with the Grow Your Social Venture participants, who are recipients of the Catalyst Fund. Besides helping them develop a budget and financial projections, fellows were there to help participants navigate a computer and applications for the first time, which is a very memorable and rewarding experience.
All right, so that wraps up what we wanted to talk about today. Really, yeah, hoping to hear from anyone who's interested. If you do have questions or if you do apply, feel free to reach out to us. And if you're interested in learning more, here are some great places to do so. So you can take a screenshot and follow up with us on Instagram. HerStart has its own account as well as YCI. Our website has all the details in the application link. And then LinkedIn is a great place to follow Youth Challenge International as an organization to, yeah, stay up to date on any new opportunities or events that we have. So thanks for your time, and we hope to hear from you soon. Take care.